All right, the recording is activated, and I want to say welcome to Justin Bishop, the founder and CEO of Bishop Ascendant. And I'm going to join Justin in sending a shout out to the first responders, healthcare workers, and all of the others in the stores and places that are allowing us to do our part to shelter in space and stay at home as we work through this pandemic global economy. So Justin, welcome.
Thank you.
And let me start off by a little challenge for you. If you could, give me your soundbite for the backstory of Bishop Ascendant and how you started the journey.
Well, I'm a serial entrepreneur inventor, so I've been doing it for over 30 years. I have over 25 patents issued in my name for different products. And one day I was, I had completed a project. I was working with the U.S. Navy, and I finished that project. And I was spending a lot of time at home because I'd been traveling before that for a long period of time, and I wanted to spend time with my family. And, as inventors do, or entrepreneurs do, get bored, and they look for something, to occupy their time. And in my case, I was sitting watching, I think it was 2020 or 60 Minutes, one of the news shows. And I saw a woman leaning over a ditch full of black water. And I said, and she was taking a plastic jug and taking that water and using it for her family, for drinking and cooking and what have you. And I said, this is ridiculous. We're in the 21st century. There's got to be a better way to deliver water to people that need it in rural and remote locations. And that's really what kicked off the initial idea or concept for Spark, which is a modular portable structure for delivering water, power, and communications in remote areas. So that's really what was the impetus for it. And I took all my previous knowledge from all my 30 years of design work and basically put it into this Spark design, Spark structure. And that's really how it started.
Justin, thank you so much for that backstory. And I'm going to throw a little respect to Wendy Chin, who we both know, and kind of connect us, and channel a little bit of Wendy's persona into the next question. What's the purpose? What do you see as the core purpose of your innovation?
I think that's fairly simple. To me, that's saving lives. To me, that's bringing people out of the darkness in areas of the world that haven't been touched by infrastructure and support facilities, giving people a chance to lift themselves up economically, to educate themselves through our system, providing education through teleeducation through our communication system, telemedicine, for health purposes through our communication system, providing the power for lights and maybe developing a little industry locally for people to elevate themselves. I think that it's all about me elevating people and giving them a chance at life, a good chance at it.
Well, clearly that's admirable, and that kind of directs us to the next question. Having shown your ability to innovate and to create, of all the things that you've done, what's your most outrageously creative moment?
That's a loaded question, because I always like to say my greatest invention was my son's.
Okay, well,
that's my first thought.
Okay.
But beyond that, I've had a few moments in time that I always like to say are perfect moments. When I come up with an idea or have the Doc Brown revelation moment kind of thing. One I can remember in particular, and I had worked with my father for a period of time. He's a mechanical engineer, and he's the one who really inspired me into this business. We were in his office, and we were trying to solve a problem relating to wave attenuation for beaches or beach erosion and protecting harbors and marinas. And we were sitting there, and he's looking at a blueprint, and we were our minds sort of locked. And I said to him, why don't we try doing it this way? And it just clicked. And that was an invention that took off, and we sold it and licensed it and what have you. But I always remember that moment in time, sharing that moment with my father, and how exciting it was for me to do that with him. It was in his later years, so I didn't get to spend as much time as I would have liked with him, working with him. But that to me was an outrageously creative moment where we both focused on it and came up with a solution.
That is amazing. Truly, the fruit falls close to the tree in that respect. And so building on that, let's dig in a little deeper, another layer below that. Who are you as a person? What's your backstory? And how is it reflecting your organization? So tell us a little bit more.
Well, I mentioned I work with my father. I think right out of high school, I started working with him, as an intern, basically. I was making coffee and running blueprints at that point in time, before they had, all the printers and what have they now. I was just basically doing all the menial tasks, and I grew up around him and the work that he did. And for, I'd say, probably 10, almost 15 years, we worked together. And I learned a lot from him, and the way he handles and treats people with respect, how he formed his teams working on projects. Some of his bad habits were he was always trying to do 10 projects at once or something like that. So what I did learn from that experience was focus, a lot of focus on what you're trying to do and staying the course. So through those years, I learned a great deal about engineering and dealing with teams, dealing with suppliers, things like that, and how to grow a network of people, that want to support your ambition and bring your product to life. So I did that for a number of years. I was in and out of testing laboratories in universities. I did a lot of work in universities wearing wetsuits because I tended to work a lot in water application, things like that. I was always putting models together, always very hands-on, always in meetings trying to raise capital to fund businesses. A lot of the times I was a silent observer because my father was in the lead. He was the head of the company. But through that experience, just sitting there and absorbing it and watching the process, that's how I learned to do what I do. Through college, I was the same way. I still kept working with him on different projects. And after I got out of college, his health faded. But I kept working on different things and finishing up projects we were working on together. And that's really how I evolved into the point where I'm at now, where I like to build a team of people working together, where I'm persistent on my project. I keep it moving forward. And I understand that I can't do it alone, that I need a team around me to make it successful. So that's what I learned through that process, and that's how I got to the point where I am now.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And let's actually go a little bit in the direction of your innovation and inspiration. And let me preface that by saying it's clear that it comes in part from your work with your father. It comes in part from your sons and those perfect innovations that you did. And it comes in part from, I'm going to say it's a natural inclination to solve problems. What's the foundation for this innovation inspiration that you have?
My father used to like to call that intuitive engineering.
Okay.
That was the phrase he used for it. Ever since I was a little boy, I was putting models together, the old testers kits, gluing pieces together and things like that. And my father would take me along on trips to molding plants and manufacturing plants. And so I was exposed at an early age to mechanical systems and building things. And all through my youth and up to now, I still build models. So that's really what I love to do, and it's always been an inclination of mine mechanically, to do things like that. And I remember at one point I was in England because my father was English, and we were at a rotational molding plant, which is a plastics production plant. And I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. And I was in a meeting, and my father was there, and everybody's wearing pocket protectors, you know, with all the gear, and they're looking at some blueprints. And you know, I'm a little kid in the room, and they're all standing around this table looking at the blueprints, and my father's saying this, and the engineers are saying this, and I look at it for about, I don't know, a couple minutes. I looked at the blueprint, and I said to him, "That part right there is wrong." And I pointed to it. Then everyone looks at me and they say, "Ah, forget it." And they start looking at it, and the engineers all go, "He's right. That was wrong." And then they redid the drawings. So I've always had that ability, that mechanical inclination, or that intuitive engineering. And that's just built into me, I guess. And I love solving problems.
Well, with all of these innate entrepreneurial and engineering and design resources available to you, how do all these things come together to create value in your terms?
I think that's a great question. I think one of the most important things as any inventor or any entrepreneur, what you do has to be valuable. It has to be needed. A lot of inventors come up with these, you know, widgets or the next great thing, but if there's no need for it, no one's going to buy it, and no one's going to fund you to make your dream come true, or to make it a reality. So always when I look at something I've come up with, I look at it with a jaundiced eye. I look at it very carefully and say, do people really need this? Am I solving a problem? And those are my first criteria. And then what I do is it physically achievable? Can it be manufactured? Can it be done so? And this is a very important point. When you're an entrepreneur and inventor, always think about the dollars and cents. Don't just think about a noble purpose. Because a noble purpose is no good unless you can back it up, unless you can make it sustainable. Mm-hmm. So the business model for me is always, you know, is there a need for it? Can it be done? Can it be done profitably, which allows the business to continue and still do good? Mm-hmm. So you always have to think about that business aspect of things. That's a critical aspect for young entrepreneurs or inventors to think about.
Well, Justin, I've got to say that not only was that well said, I'm taking that to heart, because I have a social impact startup that we think we have a sustainable revenue model, but I'm going to go back and look at the numbers based on that coaching.
Please do.
So now let's fast forward and hyper focus on today. Do you have any COVID-19 economy coping suggestions you like to pass on to the audience?
Yeah. You know, as an entrepreneur, as a person who's trying to pull an investment, who's trying to bring their business up, I mentioned teamwork is very important. And what I've done, and we're doing it right now through Zoom, is make sure your team is always in communication, that you're always talking with each other. You know, a little text here and there, or some you know, emails go a long way. But from an entrepreneur side, for someone who's trying to raise capital for a company, it's a very difficult time right now, because I've always raised capital in the past in face-to-face meetings, because people develop trust with you when you're face-to-face with someone. You can showcase your model, you can show them different things, and people that invest tend to be like tactile. They want to see something, they want to touch something. In our case, it would be a model of our Spark unit. Or it could be some promotional video that I want to walk through with someone and show them the technology. So for me right now, it's a bit of a handicap trying to raise capital because of that. But I take any opportunity I can to do Skypes, you know, Zoom meetings and things like that, and stay in contact. And, you know, people that you think might invest or could invest, I try to stay in contact with them, as I said, through emails or texts or what have you, just to try to stay in the mind's eye. And hopefully once this is all over, you know, we can meet face to face and reinvigorate the contact and the trust, and, you know, and garner those investments, which are so critical for early stage companies.
Much appreciated. And that kind of leads us to the last question, which is, what's next for you and for Bishop Ascendant and Bishop Ascendant community?
Well, it's keep moving forward. That's what we do. through whatever the adversity is, whether it's raising capital or technical challenges. Another lesson I would impart to anybody who's an entrepreneur or someone who's an inventor or has an idea that thinks they can help people, keep moving forward. Don't give up on the idea. Whatever comes your way, find a way around it or through it or over it, and just keep moving forward.
Well, Justin, I think you may have, in addition to your own experiences, you may be channeling some of the knowledge that was shared this Saturday in a Startup Ignite event, where a number of attorneys were providing suggestions on the current economy. And that's the gist of what they said, of whether you pivot, you just want to survive because you think you have a viable idea, or maybe you're one of those fortunate few that are able to thrive in this environment, to find a way to keep moving forward. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I want to mention, apparently one of our interns is so excited about being able to share the news for Bishop Ascendant, she actually engaged. And so her name's Kelsey Jacobs. She's a Howard University business student, and she's one of our leads in sharing the content with the community. So you have an exciting message for Kelsey.
Thank you.
And with that said, we're on to the last question now, which is any parting words that you'd like to share with the audience?
I think just to highlight a couple of points again, I think make sure your idea is relevant. Make sure your business model matches what you're trying to do, because you want to be something, if you're trying to help people, you want it to be sustainable, and persevere and perseverance. Just keep going, keep moving forward, don't give up. And we're in tough times right now, but it'll pass, and we'll be able to keep moving forward.
Justin, thank you so much for that. That's an uplifting end to a very exciting and interesting interview. And look forward to connecting with you as we work through this COVID-19 economy on the other side, so we can toast to what we've been able to achieve.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris.
Take care now. Be safe in New Jersey.
Thank you.
Goodbye.